guys, Wisteria Moon here, and today I'm coming at you all with a special treat. A few weeks ago, I uploaded a video called Feral, the new Animal Jam game. It was all about a new game called Feral that's being released by WildWorks, the company that made Animal Jam. This video received an unprecedented level of attention, along with a ton of questions, so I decided to bring the CEO of WildWorks, Clark Stacey, on my channel to answer these questions and give us a bit of insight as to what's coming. And a few game leaks too. This podcast is going to be split into two parts, so stay tuned for part 2 by subscribing to my channel. Once it's out, I'll post the link in the description of this video. I also want to apologize for the poor audio quality at the beginning of this podcast. My recording setup was a little weird starting out, so I captioned the audio of that part in case anyone has trouble hearing. Before I hop into it, I have 2 quick reminders. First, be sure to check out my merch website, www.wisteriaworld.com, for some spicy Wisteria Moon merch, especially if you've been loving these Feral videos. Second is to subscribe to my vlog channel, Wisteria Life, because I'm going to be putting up another vlog this week and you do not want to miss it. Anyway, now let's hop straight into the podcast.
So, I'm Clark Stacey. I'm the CEO at WildWorks, and we are busy, in addition to Animal Jam, making a new game called Feral.
I guess the first question, which a lot of people are dying to know, is why did you guys choose the name Feral?
So the whole idea behind Feral is that we have a lot of Animal Jam players who have been playing for years and years, and the question that they ask us most often is, can you do something like this, but for older kids, for older players? Something that still has kind of that feeling of community and creativity. It's still a walled garden, but the walls are a little lower. Feral's a completely new world. It's completely different. It's a different animal from Animal Jam. But we're thinking about our core audience, which is largely girls and largely 12 to 18, say. And Feral just seems to describe, if not how they are, how they want to be. And they're very constrained in a lot of parts of their life, in school, in social expectations. And I think what they want is to be let off the leash, kind of go back to their roots. And just be themselves.
No, that's honestly a really cool concept. I think the name actually does have a really good ring to it, but it's also really cool to think of like the psychological thought process of people going back to their roots. And I think that does pertain a lot to like the audience that was into Animal Jam. We love nature and like animals and whatnot, so I really like it. I'm a huge fan. Another big question that we have is, when is Feral being released for closed beta, and then there's the final release? So I was kind of wondering what your like tentative schedule was for that, if you have one.
Here's what we're shooting for. We are going to be sending out beta invitations for closed beta before the end of the year, and we will be running closed beta tests starting in December. I don't know the exact date in December, but it will be in December. And really, when the game releases depends on what we find during those beta tests. If we find the interface isn't clicking or there are bugs, we may decide, okay, this needs more time than we thought. But if it's as good as we think it is, the test results that come back show that it's technically sound and that, then I think we would look to release it or open it up to everyone before the end of the first quarter next year. So around or before March.
So it's more of like the closed beta will determine like the glitches, and then from there you're going to work on improvements, but maybe not do like an open beta, or like would you consider another round of testing?
Yeah, obviously we target dates because we don't want to just be sitting on it forever. But in a very real sense, it's ready when it's ready. We don't want to put out something that feels incomplete or doesn't make people feel as immersed as they do in Animal Jam. Feral is not going to be as vast as we plan for it to be on the day that it launches. There'll be a lot more coming out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, because you want to be sure that you put out like a high quality product just to get people's interest. So that's definitely understandable. So I guess in terms of the beta and like how it's closed beta, so it's invite only, how do you guys choose beta testers? Because I know there's currently a sign up link on Feral's website to possibly be a beta tester. So is it a random selection, or Is it everyone who signs up?
We have a sign up link there. You can put in your email, which means that you'll get email updates and information about Feral. And it means that as soon as we're ready to start with actual beta invitations, we will send you an email saying, if you'd like to beta test, come fill out this form. And it will include some biographical information, probably some information about what system you'll be playing it on. I think it's going to depend a little bit on the volume of testers that we have applying. We started getting signups from this very, very quickly. I haven't looked today, but yesterday morning when we looked, it was over 18,000.
Did you say 18,000? Oh my gosh!
In like 48 hours. So I think what we will probably have is multiple rounds of beta testing and possibly even multiple beta servers. But everybody who submits their email address and asks to become a beta tester, as long as they qualify to become a beta tester, then we will try to get them in there.
Honestly, I did not expect that volume so quickly.
We didn't expect
that. That's awesome, though. Another big thing we have is the age limitations, which I know is tricky territory, probably. So I'm assuming the game is 13 plus. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
I don't know if you guys have figured this much out yet, but do you guys have a way in mind to prevent younger people from joining? And like if they're found out to be younger than 13, are they going to be banned? Like how is that territory navigated?
There are some legal and privacy concerns around letting kids younger than 13 into the game. In Animal Jam, you have to obtain verified parental consent for you to play the game and just store your information. By the time you're 13, in a lot of countries, you don't require that consent anymore. If we find out that somebody is younger than 13, then we will shut off their account. The same way that Facebook or YouTube or anything else does. It's a community that's going to be managed differently from Animal Jam. It should still be a safe and a friendly place. We're not going to allow hate speech. The main thing is that in Feral, you could give somebody your real name. You could give them your email. You could give them personally identifying information that we go to great lengths to prevent you from giving out in Animal Jam. And that's why we wouldn't want kids under 13 playing it.
So kind of a related question. A lot of people were wondering about chat restrictions and how those would work. So I know that you can give some of your like social handles and whatnot, but does this mean you can say bad words? Like, is it all like a free-for-all, or are there restrictions?
There will be some word restrictions in Feral. It's going to be a much lighter touch than in Animal Jam, because a lot of the chat restrictions that people struggle with in Animal Jam are there to prevent kids from giving up their address, from giving up the school. And we have to go pretty over the top to keep kids safe in there. And we err on the side of caution. In Feral, we will err on the side of free expression. We will be banning some words that we would consider hate speech or offensive or egregiously over the top. Overall, we're going to err on the side of free expression.
So my next question is, how would you describe the maturity of the game? What does that mean? Is there gore involved, or is it like darker aesthetic?
Well, there isn't like PvP head chopping or anything like that. So it's not a battle game. There isn't players killing each other. But that said, there's definitely an edgier aesthetic for the game. And I know when you asked, is there a goal in the game, I was about to say no, because players don't get chopped up. But then I remembered like a lake of blood in one spot. So I guess you can call that gore. It's a little hard to describe the aesthetic, but I'll tell you the biggest influence on it was Animal Jam players and their artwork. We look at the artwork that Animal Jam players create of their characters, or of Wisteria Moon's character, or that. And it's, you can see the heritage of Animal Jam there, but they just go way, way further, the dark sides of your imagination. That's kind of how I might describe the Feral aesthetic. It's not like a death metal band album cover or something. The focus is more on an artistic and beautiful environment, but it does have some dark and edgy as well.
Now I guess we're getting into more of the gameplay questions. So how is it played logistically? Is it Mac and PC? Can you play it on your phone, like Android, iOS?
Ultimately, it will be 360 degrees, desktop computer, iOS, Android. You can play it on any device, and you'll be connecting to the same world with people playing it on their devices. We may not have every platform at launch, but that will be the intent within the first few months of launch.
So what would be the initial platform that it will launch as? Is it going to be like desktop, kind of like Animal Jam?
Desktop is the most likely beta platform. The launch platform, that's one of those questions that will in part be answered during beta.
That's awesome though that it'll eventually be across all platforms. That seems kind of challenging, honestly.
It is challenging. There are other platforms that are pretty exciting too. I think the Switch would be great for it. I think VR would be really cool.
That would be like honestly crazy, like having VR elements.
Not something that'll be there at launch, but we're always playing around with different platforms.
That's huge potential, so that would be awesome. To follow up with that, what will the aesthetic be? Is it going to be 2D or 3D?
This game is all being built 3D.
Would you say that it has any similarities to Play Wild, like in terms of the animation style?
I think maybe you can see some heritage in the art style, but really the camera positioning is different. A lot of the movement control is different. So in Play Wild, very often the camera is quite constrained. In Feral, you're moving the camera around the way you would more in a traditional 3D game space.
So does the game have any relation to Animal Jam? Because I know with Animal Jam you can sign in to Play Wild with your Animal Jam account, but does that work for Feral, or is it totally separate?
It is totally separate. However, we have heard from a lot of players that they're worried if they've been Animal Jam players for a long time, they don't want to give up their Animal Jam username in Feral. What if somebody's already captured the Wisteria Moon name?
Yeah, which is sad, but hard to prevent.
We are looking at a couple of possibilities for that. One possibility may be that for Animal Jam members, we will reserve the same username in Feral.
Oh, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, we're definitely sensitive to that concern. They want their friends to be able to find them, and we'll make sure that they can.
I guess when someone's first joining Feral, they can create any username they want. Is it first come, first serve? Or are there username restrictions? That's another one, I guess some people are wondering.
We would not have the same level of filter that we do for Animal Jam usernames, but again, we're not going to allow hate speech. We're not going to allow anything that is offensive or overtly hateful to any group or individual. So yeah, they will go through a process, but it will be a much lighter touch than Animal Jams.
I'm very curious about this. So how will the monetization work in this game? Is there going to be membership or in-app purchases or in-game purchases, I guess?
That one, I think you're going to have to wait and see. The answer is that we're trying a hybrid monetization with Feral. We want parents to be able to predict that this game is not going to cost them more than X every month. And what I can tell you is that monetization in Feral will be driven by cosmetics and not by gameplay restrictions. Like Animal Jam, you won't be time limited in how long you can play. We won't keep you out of major game features for not paying. We want you to be in there and experiencing as much of it as possible, and it'll be mostly tied to things that you craft or things that you wear and things that you do to change your environment. I think that people will be happy when they see how the game is structured to monetize, because we're not trying to wring every last penny out of our players. We want it to be something that you can pay without it being painful, and we want you to be able to play infinitely without having to pay anything.
Kind of a more fun question. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the lore and if it will be connected to Animal Jam's lore in any way, or if it'll be totally different lore.
It is totally different. These worlds are not connected to each other in any way. It's a completely different universe. I don't want to go too much into the lore and ruin any surprises, but I will say that underlying Feral is a reality show for mythological animals.
A reality show? That is some pretty cool stuff. I feel like that seems so different than your average mythological kind of storyline, but cool at the same time.
I think people will find it pretty unique and entertaining.
So we're calling this a mythological reality show?
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I love that. Are you able to beat the game?
I would say that you are able to rise to prominence in the game, and that you're able to kind of become a star in the game. We don't think of it in terms of, you know, this is a linear game where you play through the entire story and then you're done, and then you're waiting for the DLC to come out, or you're just getting on and playing multiplayer. It's a community. Like Animal Jam, it's a place to be. It's a social space as much as it is a game. There are narrative things to do in there. There are stories to discover and be told. There are gameplay quests and things, but it's going to be a constantly unfolding story.
Alrighty folks, part 1 is officially a wrap. Part 2 will be out later this week, so be sure to subscribe to catch it right when it comes out. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in part 2.